In this lesson, we will learn how to animate end particle attributes. So we've learned how to shade our end particles to get something that looks a little bit more natural. Now it's time to animate our particles to emit at the right moment and then to dissipate at the right time. So let's say we go ahead and get to it. What I'd like to do is work with AutoKey because it can help us save time in the keying process. So as we start to change values, we'll then start to have AutoKey kind of save keys much faster for us, but we have to be really careful when it's on. You'll notice that if I were to go to a moment in the animation as we view through our shot camera that has been animated, you'll notice that if I then go ahead and change the camera just a bit, which happens at times, you'll notice that that change of course will be saved. So we have to be, again, super careful about things like this. Let's go ahead and undo back to remove that keyframe. And I'll go ahead and show you how to lock down your shot camera so that that does not happen. You can go to View and choose Select Camera, and then you can jump over to your channel box with Control A, or by using the Channel Box tab. Then you'd want to highlight your transform channels, and simply go to Channels and choose Lock Selected. Now you cannot move your camera. So that's super safe. Feel free to do the same thing for the other camera properties that you have, which are tied to the camera shape node. So just go ahead and highlight those channels and lock them down. If you ever need to unlock them, go back to Channels and choose Unlock Selected. Alright, fantastic. So I'll go ahead and make sure that these are locked, and we're now safe. We won't throw off our camera animation. Sweet. So it's time to open up the outliner to find our emitter, which is underneath our emitter object. Here it is. Let's go ahead and select it, and then if you would like, you can access the emitter's rate from either the channel box or from the attribute editor, but either way, this is what we want to animate so that the emission happens at the right moment and stops at the right moment. Now it's time to have a look at the animation, and I'd say we can jump to our perspective view to get a better idea of when the doors open and then when they close. Let's hit play. Alright, sweet. Now we'll go ahead and have a look at what happens at the end of the animation. So you can see the elevator comes up, and that blocks the hole where our particles are quote-unquote being emitted from, right? So knowing that, it's then time to start setting some keys to make sure that this looks right as the particles start to emit and then as they start to disappear. I'd say that we can have the animation start around frame 50. So knowing that and keeping this value in mind of 300, we'll go ahead and set our value to 0. We'll go to our rate channel, right click and choose set key. Now let's go ahead and figure out a moment where the particles should get to this rate of 300. So that should happen just a few frames after, let's say on about frame 64. So we'll go there and we'll set our rate to 300. Take a look, Maya will instantly create a key for us as long as we've already created a key on this channel. Nice. So now it's time to figure out when we should keep this rate going of 300. I'd say that that can happen until about frame 77. So we'll go there and we'll choose set key. And then we'll go ahead and have this rate drop afterwards. So let's go to about frame 86 and we'll set our rate to 0. Take a look at what happens now. When we start back from frame 1 and hit play, you'll notice that the particles will not emit until after frame 50, and then they'll stop shortly after. Cool. Now right now we're getting a very blobby look. Let's say we have the particles disappear so that we don't have this issue, because that's going to break the illusion, right? If we have these blobs that remain and then disappear suddenly. So to take care of that, let's go ahead and move to frame 86 and we'll grab our particle object. With it selected, we'll then go ahead and find our opacity channel. Alright, sweet. So on frame 86, we'll go to our opacity, we'll go ahead and right click and choose set key. And now let's go ahead and have them disappear a few frames after. Let's say on about frame 100, so we'll go ahead and set the opacity to 0. Sweet. And again, we should not have to choose set key because AutoKey is on. Let's go ahead and see how this looks. Again, starting back on frame 1, we'll hit play. So they appear, sweet, and then they disappear. Now that might happen a little bit too fast, right? When they start to disappear. So you can start to play around with a few values. You can go ahead and take this key on 100. Let's go ahead and adjust our range slider so we can select it a little bit easier. We can then go ahead and shift select the key to highlight it, and then left click and drag to delay its timing a bit, maybe to about frame 130. Let's go ahead and see how this looks. We'll hit play. There are our particles, and they disappear. How exciting is that? And then feel free to animate your opacity scale as well, so you can start to experiment. You can say, all right, on frame 86, what I'd like to do is go ahead and grab this endpoint of the opacity scale graph. I'd like to go to selected value, right click and choose key selected. And then, shortly after, let's say on about frame 115, we might go there and drop that sum. From there, you can see that AutoKey will, again, create a keyframe for us automatically. All we have to do now is play this back and see if we like what Maya has done. How cool is that? So our particles will disappear shortly after, and that looks more natural. Fantastic. So again, instead of having those blobs, our steam will disappear at the right moment. Great. Well, that finishes this lesson. So now that we have an idea of how to create particles and how to animate them, how to also shade them, what we can then do is add another emitter to create more particles that shoot up vertically as the store opens, just to enhance our sequence. And that's what we'll work on in the next lesson.